Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Blue Wave. I'm your host, Max Lopez. We got a great show for you, as always. We're going to be starting off with bombshell leaked audio of Donald Trump discussing the infamous Iran document directly with these random ghostwriter people for Mark Meadows. And what it really does is it blows a hole in his previous defense of, oh, well, I wasn't showing them documents, or there was stuff mixed in there with my personal belongings and I had to go through it. Now, it shows that Trump knew exactly what type of documents he was hoarding, and he knew that he could not be sharing the information that he was sharing with these random ghostwriters for Mark Meadows. So we'll go ahead and listen to that. It's some juicy stuff. And then we'll also play the clip from Brett Baier where Trump makes this irrational defense of why it's not a big deal that he showed the classified information. Next, we're going to be looking at DeSantis may not even win New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire is a state that if you're an up-and-coming candidate, either in the Democrat or Republican side, you really need to at least win New Hampshire, which is a state of only 1.2 million people and is a very, very politically active and picky state. It's exactly the kind of state that if DeSantis was going to be able to make a run against Donald Trump, he would have to win at least New Hampshire. So the signs that he's not going to win it and that he's way behind at this moment are not good for a lot of different reasons for him. We're going to be looking at the latest Supreme Court scandal involving Justice Alito. And we're going to be looking at just how much the Supreme Court has fallen out of public favor and why it is that people have lost faith generally in the Supreme Court. Next, we'll look at DeSantis's new immigration law. It's really, really, really some awful stuff that's being proposed by Ron DeSantis, including using lethal force against people who are cutting through the fence, and as well as using lethal force and the death penalty against people who are caught smuggling drugs over the border. Some really, really intense immigration law that we're going to be looking at. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at Marco Rubio on News Nation making an explosive corroboration of David Grush's whistleblower claims that were made about 2 weeks ago at this point. Okay, so if you're not caught up, David Grush has made whistleblower claims that the U.S. government, it has a secret UAP, which is an unidentified aerial phenomenon crash program that is secretly funded by the US and has gone through generations and generations of different political leaders, has been kept secret. And he's whistleblowing on the fact that we have retrieved exotic origin, UAP, whatever you want to call them, craft, as well as bodies of specimen that were inside of this craft. So Marco Rubio is corroborating these claims, saying that other whistleblowers have testified to him the same thing that David Grush testified or whistleblew to the world on News Nation. So we're going to be looking at the Hill article. It's going to get into some of the details of that. But firstly, let's go ahead and look at Donald Trump leaked audio on the Mar-a-Lago docs case and how this could be a damning piece of evidence in Jack Smith's prosecution, and ultimately could be a very, very effective piece of evidence when played to a jury, especially in relation to Trump's other comments that he has made. So let's go ahead and listen to the bombshell audio together.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like
beginning.
when Milley's talking about, we're going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in.
That's right.
Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. he said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him.
Wow.
We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here. Look at that.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know. Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time, you know.
she'd send
Private
it,
email.
she'd send it to
Yeah.
Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
the pervert.
Please print.
By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And, you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the
You did.
papers.
It's pretty
This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify
figure out
it.
yeah.
See, as president, I could have declassified
Yeah.
it. Now I can't, you know, but this is
Yeah,
classified.
now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so, we here and I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
So at the end there, you catch him presumably speaking to Walt Nuda to bring him Coates, who is testifying and being deposed today in the Mar-a-Lago docs case. So just a few things I want to pick up on here is, firstly, the cavalier nature that these documents are being discussed, and you can just hear Trump. He's trying to show off to these women. He obviously might find one of, or at least one of these women attractive, and he's trying to show off and be boastful by using these documents to basically flash and be, oh, look what I got. Isn't this cool? It's secret. I'm showing you something secret, but kind of trying to let them in on the in, if you will. And it's just so crazy to hear him so casually going, oh, this is secret, I'm telling you, and then in the same breath nearly criticizing Hillary Clinton and joking about, oh, well, this is what Hillary would be doing, but in fact he is committing a crime himself. And another thing is that you can hear these papers ruffling around. I mean, you could hear that he's obviously presenting some sort of document or documents, and there's not much dispute as to that fact because you can hear paper ruffling around. And another thing I want to pick up on here before we go look at the Brett Baier clip is that he's saying, oh, well, now you believe me, right? Now you believe me. You didn't believe me, but now you do because I showed you these documents. And these women are going, oh, no, we believed you. We believed you. Like, it wasn't even necessary for Trump to make whatever dumb point he's trying to make. Like, he didn't even need to show the actual documents because this woman is saying, I'm already impressed. I already believe you. But Trump couldn't stop there. He had to keep going and create one of the most damning pieces of evidence against him in this whole Jack Smith case. So now what we'll listen to is the Brett Baier clip in which Donald Trump makes these strange defenses of why it's not a big deal that he had the documents. Let's go ahead and listen to the Brett Baier clip.
Dwell on it, but according to the indictment, you were here at Bedminster on July 21st, 2021, after you're no longer president, and you were recorded saying that you had a document detailing a plan of attack on another country that was prepared by the U.S. military for you when you were president, the Iran attack plan. You remember that?
Ready?
You were recorded.
It wasn't a document.
Okay.
I had lots of paper. I had copies of newspaper articles. I had copies of magazines.
I know. This
had
is
copies of
specifically a
everything.
quote. You're quoted
And
on the
I know,
recording
and-
saying the document was secret, adding that you could have declassified it while you were president, but, quote, now I can't. You know this is still secret, highly confidential. And the indictment cites the recording and the testimony from people in the room saying you showed it to people there that day. So you say on this on tape
it says just the opposite.
that you can't
And let me just
declassify it.
tell
So
you,
why have it? is
When
what
I
the question is.
said that I couldn't declassify it now, that's because I wasn't president. I never made any bones about that. When I'm not president, I can't declassify.
And that's what you said. You didn't
I said
declassify
that.
it.
I said no. I said I couldn't.
could
but
have
that wasn't a
declassified it.
document, Brett. There was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things.
There's no document, he said. Well, it sure sounds like there was a specific document that he was presenting, and he was shuffling through, going, "Oh, well, let me find the Iran secrets. Oh, yes, here it is. I found it. Here, let me." So now Trump's trying to say, not now, I guess, but previously, he's trying to say, "Oh, there's no documents. There's no documents. It's a bunch of magazine clippings." It's not adding up on Trump's side. It's just not adding up whatsoever, and this stuff's going to be presented to a jury.
Amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things, and it may have been held up or may not, but that was
It may have been held up or may not. It most certainly was held up.
not a document. I didn't have a document
It was a document.
per se. There was nothing to declassify. These were newspaper stories, magazine stories, and
There was something to declassify. It was a classified document prepared by the military that Trump did not have the authority to declassify when he was presenting it to these random strangers.
articles.
I'm just saying what the indictment says.
Well,
the
these
recording
people-
and the
look,
people in the room who
These
testified.
people are very dishonest people. They're thugs. They're thugs. If you look at what
They're thugs. Who's a thug? Who? Dude, you committed the crime, bro. You committed it. There's... Oh, Jack Smith's a thug because he's prosecuting me for committing a crime that I very obviously committed, and there's tons and tons of evidence and testimony pointing to the fact that I did commit this crime. Like, dude, he's a prosecutor. This is what he does. How is he a thug? Because just because he's coming after you, he's a thug? But let's use the FBI to go after Hillary. That's a proper use of the FBI, but not when when you're going after Trump. Like, what the fuck is this argument? It doesn't make any fucking sense, dude. You're talking out of your booty right now.
they've done to other people, what they've done to and overturned in the U.S. Supreme Court. These are thugs.
Overturned over the Supreme Court? What? I just gotta listen to this again. I gotta try to make sure I got this straight here.
Thugs. They're thugs. If you look at what they've done to other people, what they've done to and overturned in the U.S. Supreme Court, these are thugs.
The
These are
suggestion
dishonest
was that
people.
you wanted this as evidence that the military, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Milley, had preemptively sent you plans for a possible attack on Iran, and that you didn't order that to happen. That's the
I
suggestion.
never ordered it to happen. No.
But
No.
that's why you wanted the document.
I don't think I've ever seen a document from Milley. Milley, frankly, was incompetent. The last one I'd want to attack with as my leader would be Milley.
Nobody's saying that Milley gave you the document specifically, or that it was specifically created by Milley. Like, good job on Brett Baier here. This might be like the least talked over I've ever seen an interviewer with Trump, and Brett Baier's standing his ground, and he's not standing up for this crap. What's it got to do with Mark Milley? I don't understand. The crime that is committed has got nothing to do with Mark Milley. Nothing. It's a classified document that is being shown after he left office to people who do not have the security clearance to view such a classified document. That's the crime, dude. It's got nothing to do with Mark Milley. Nothing.
But that's why you wanted the document.
I don't think I've ever seen a document from Milley. Milley, frankly, was incompetent. The last one I'd want to attack with as my leader would be Milley. That I can tell you.
All
and
right,
I think
last
you
thing
know
on
that.
this. There are 31 documents listed. Nuclear capabilities of foreign countries, related to military capabilities of foreign countries, intelligence briefings on foreign countries. Why do you want to hold on to those documents after you're president?
I don't say I do.
You just didn't know what was in the boxes?
discussing with NARA, giving them back. All of a sudden, we've got raided, which is a violation of my, Fourth Amendment rights.
It's not a violation of his Fourth Amendment rights. The DOJ had a subpoena. What the hell? I'm not sure what just happened here. All right. Well, it looks like we lost. It looks like we lost the clip here. It's okay because that was pretty much everything I wanted to show you guys, anyways. What I was saying is that the DOJ had a subpoena to search his Mar-a-Lago estate. A lawfully granted subpoena that was issued by a judge. Therefore, it's not a violation of his Fourth Amendment rights. Yeah, just craziness from Donald Trump. Who is still out there defending him? I guess it's a lot of people because he still has a lot of support of the Republican Party, astonishingly. But yeah, this is not good for Trump, and any way to spin it as being good or not a big deal for Trump is a bunch of BS. I think that, this isn't doing him any favors in a potential rematch against Joe Biden either. Because you look at the numbers and you look at the fact that Donald Trump already is lost to Joe Biden. Okay, and you look at all the things that have happened since Trump's loss to Joe Biden. The January 6th insurrection, which was instigated at Trump's behest. You look at the Mar-a-Lago raid that's happened, and this whole document scandal. And you look at being found liable for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll, and it's starting to unravel for the former president. And electorally, you really wonder if there's any path for him to continue forward as being a viable, potentially winning candidate. Yeah, bad stuff. Let's see how this plays out in the coming days and weeks. And we're going to see, let's see what the jury thinks of this information, because that's really, really what matters in the end. So next up here, we got Ron DeSantis may not even win New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire is a state that if you're an up-and-coming candidate, you have to at least be sure that you have New Hampshire in the bag, okay? It's a population of 1.2 million people, and they're not quite like any other voter group in the country. There's a joke that New Hampshire voters would be undecided about a candidate because they've only met him 3 times at this point. So New Hampshire is a very, very important state for any potentially insurgent candidate to win. And it has a very small population. It's very small geographically. It's easy to go from town to town to town. It's easy to advertise, and people are very tuned in to the news, and it's easy to present your message, whatever message that you want. And as long as you're campaigning well, the voters can be convinced to your side. You look at the 2016 primary, in which Bernie Sanders won New Hampshire by 25 points. Okay, crushed Hillary with all of her establishment money and all of her establishment media propping up. Bernie won by 25 points and still ultimately ended up losing the Democratic nomination to Hillary Clinton. So let's look at this article here about Ron DeSantis' fortunes in New Hampshire. From Politico, it says, "It's just stupid. DeSantis stumbles in New Hampshire. It once looked like Ron DeSantis..." Oh, God, I got hair in my eye or something. "It once looked like Ron DeSantis might be poised for a breakthrough in New Hampshire. Not anymore. For several months this year, Ron DeSantis seemed poised for a breakthrough in New Hampshire. Longtime allies of his chief opponent, Donald Trump, were shopping around for alternatives. Multiple efforts sprang up to defeat DeSantis. multiple efforts sprang up to draft DeSantis into the race. The Florida governor topped Trump in one New Hampshire poll in January, and he sold out the state's biggest annual fundraising dinner in April, helping the party bring in a record haul. So DeSantis is winning in polls in just January. But in the months since DeSantis formally entered the presidential race, he stumbled in the first in the nation primary state. He got dragged into a tit-for-tat endorsement battle with Trump that generated some media attention but little measurable increase in support. His first visit to the state as a presidential candidate drew more headlines for what he didn't do, take questions from voters, than the retail politicking he did. And that's on top of polls that had already swung back in Trump's favor. There are signs that even inside DeSantis' orbit, they see New Hampshire as a challenge. The super PAC that's effectively running his operation has been off the air in New Hampshire since May. Temporarily, its founder told Politico, while running a new ad in Iowa and South Carolina this week. And DeSantis' visit to the state on Tuesday is being met with backlash from a major Republican women's group. The New Hampshire Federation of Republican Women released a statement Thursday slamming DeSantis for planning an event at the same time as their annual fundraising launch, an event Trump is headlining. The group asked him to reschedule. It has always been a New Hampshire hallmark to be considerate when scheduling events, the group's events director, Christine Peters, said in a statement. To have a candidate come in and distract from the most special event the women's group holds in the year is unprecedented. DeSantis' world was quick to dismiss the group's complaints, saying their event shouldn't be a distraction since it's in a different part of the state and at a different time than when Trump is speaking. And the Federation's soiree is already sold out. They noted that the two of the group's members resigned over the statement targeting DeSantis, with the PAC blasting out their tweets. One of them, Kate Day, the now former public relations chair, told Politico the Federation erred when it broke its neutrality in criticizing DeSantis. But DeSantis' opponents were already weaponizing the exchange. If there's one thing you don't do in New Hampshire, it's piss off the grassroots women, said an advisor to a rival candidate granted anonymity to speak freely. I can never say that word. You guys might know if you've been watching my videos for a while. Don't mess with them. They remember everything. Rookie move. Out of the 4 early voting states, libertarian-leaning New Hampshire was never the most logical fit for the conservative culture war-wielding Florida governor. He tactically acknowledged as much by removing any reference to the 6-week abortion ban he signed in Florida from his stump speeches in the state, where the majority of voters identify as pro-choice. But as a leading contender against Trump nationally, expectations for DeSantis remain sky high, even in New Hampshire. And some Republicans in the state were dumbfounded that DeSantis would walk into a skirmish with a prominent GOP group. It's the worst strategic move he has exhibited thus far, New Hampshire-based Republican strategist Mike Dehaney said. It's just stupid, actually. You don't take on the New Hampshire Federation of Republican Women. He added, if he doesn't turn this around, it could be a death by 1,000 cuts. DeSantis' stumbles may say as much about Trump's strength in New Hampshire as they do about the governor's own shortcomings. The state handed Trump his first primary win in 2016. And Trump and DeSantis are on a collision course Tuesday, where they have near dueling events in New Hampshire. DeSantis is set to stump in Hollins just 2 hours before Trump is expected to address the women's group in Concord. One problem for DeSantis in New Hampshire is that his culture war platform has more natural appeal in Iowa, which has a history of nominating the most socially conservative candidates, and South Carolina. His team also has its eyes on Nevada, where he recently headlined an annual event alongside one of his top supporters and personal friends, former state attorney general Adam Laxalt. Another issue for DeSantis in the Granite State, the anti-Trump lane is crowded here. Former New Jersey governor Chris Christie, who has a built-in base of support from the state from his 2016 bid, plans to run a New Hampshire-focused campaign and is starting to nip at DeSantis' heels, having climbed to 3rd place in one survey. On the flip side, the Trump-aligned super PAC MAGA Inc. is flooding the airwaves and voters' mailboxes with attacks on DeSantis, and Trump had head start on organizing in the state, staffing up early with the hiring of former New Hampshire GOP chair Steve Stepaniak in January. The former president's team had already identified 192,000 people in New Hampshire who had donated or signed up online saying they would do something with the campaign or attended his rallies over the last 6 months. Right now, Trump's the guy to beat in New Hampshire, and that's just a fact. DeSantis' campaign is showing some signs of recalibrating. The governor took questions from voters at an event in South Carolina this past week, yada, yada, yada. Still, New Hampshire is a hard state to predict. Independent voters who can pull ballots in either party's primary in New Hampshire and who typically skew more moderate could be major players in the Republican contest without a serious fight to draw them to the Democratic side. The state's popular Republican governor, Chris Sununu, is a wild card whose eventual endorsement could help or hurt DeSantis. Okay, so you got DeSantis feuding with this women group who has a lot of political strength in New Hampshire and also has a lot of political will, and they're a very prominent group, and DeSantis has decided to go head to head with them and not abide by their wishes. And you combine that with the fact that you have all these candidates, right, that are clogging up the anti-Trump lane. So people who are sick and tired of Trump and are over it and want somebody else to be the GOP nominee. Well, you got your pick of Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, you got Tim Scott, you got Chris Sununu, who was mentioned. All these candidates are sucking up the air out of the room for DeSantis. Now, if it was just DeSantis versus Trump, you might have a race that is closer because the anti-Trump lane isn't so crowded, and the support would all of the anti-Trump support would be funneled towards DeSantis. But what we're seeing is that that's not necessarily happening, and the GOP, being the selfish, self-absorbed people that they are seeking to enrich themselves and enrich their own political future over consolidating support behind DeSantis as a way to combat Donald Trump. So until we see some more people drop out, until we see DeSantis's messaging change and him take a less culture war driven approach to his campaigning, it's not going to work for him generally. And as the article pointed out, in New Hampshire, it's even going to hurt him even more, okay, than it does in other places in the country. So yeah, it's like if DeSantis is not able to pick up Iowa, if he's not able to pick up a New Hampshire, if he's not able to pick up a Nevada, this thing could be over pretty dang quickly, okay? And we could be looking at a scenario where Donald Trump runs uncontested in many of the later states, because DeSantis, if he doesn't pick up, I think not picking up New Hampshire would be a death blow. Not picking up Nevada would be a death blow. That could be too hard for him to overcome just based on the dynamics of the race. So the Supreme Court has lost a lot of favor with the American people due to various scandals that have come out, including involving Clarence Thomas. And there's been scandal after scandal after scandal. I can't even tell you all of them off the top of my head. You'll have to go and look up some of this stuff for yourself. But what we got here is another Supreme Court scandal. Shocker. Okay. We got another scandal involving Samuel Alito, who apparently did not declare gifts from billionaire with case before U.S. Supreme Court. That's not good. The Supreme Court is supposed to be impartial, or they're supposed to be above politics and above partisanship. Yeah, that's gone out the window. People don't believe that anymore. People haven't believed it really ever since going back to the 2000 Supreme Court case, which handed George Bush the election and threw out 65,000 votes for Al Gore in Florida. But stuff like this just makes it worse and worse and worse for the Supreme Court, to the point that now that only 35% of Americans have a positive view of the Supreme Court, which is absolutely remarkable given this kind of shield of invincibility that has existed around the Supreme Court for many, many, many years now. So let's look at the Guardian article. It says the U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito accepted a seat on a private plane owned by the conservative billionaire Paul Singer, flying to Alaska for a luxury fishing trip hosted by another right-wing businessman, then did not declare such gifts or recuse himself when Singer had business before the Supreme Court. Yeah, you heard me read that right. The latest blockbuster report on the tangled subject of Supreme Court ethics came again from ProPublica. God bless ProPublica and the decay and immorality that they are exposing that exists within the Supreme Court. The nonprofit newsroom has already detailed the close relationship between another hardline justice, Clarence Thomas, and the conservative billionaire Harlan Crow. Supreme Court justices are subject to the same ethics rules as other federal judges, but effectively govern themselves. The Chief Justice, John Roberts, has resisted calls to testify in Congress about the Thomas Crow affair. On Wednesday, Dick Durbin, the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and his fellow Democrat Sheldon Whitehouse said that when Congress returns from the July 4th recess, their committee will mark up Supreme Court ethics legislation. The senators said, "We hope that before that time, Chief Justice Roberts will take the lead and bring Supreme Court ethics in line with all other federal judges. But if the court won't act, then Congress must." Damn straight. On Tuesday, Alito published a controversial rebuttal to the new ProPublica report, using a Wall Street Journal column to say the piece was coming and to deny wrongdoing. Alito said justices commonly interpreted ethics laws to mean that accommodations and transportation for social events were not reportable gifts. The seat on Singer's plane, the justice wrote, would have otherwise been vacant. Ah, yes, being wined and dined and being whisked away to luxurious fishing trips on a private jet. That's not worrisome at all. And you're just tagging along. The seat was going to be vacant. Just a Supreme Court justice, just tagging along with my buddy who has business that's going to be coming before the Supreme Court. Just tagging along on the spare seat. No big deal, right? Virginia Cantor, a former government ethics lawyer, now with Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, said a private plane trip was not an acceptable gift. The exception only covers food, lodging, and entertainment, Cantor told ProPublica. He's trying to move away from the plain language of the statute and the regulation. It says nothing about private plane trips. Nothing in the law says it's acceptable to go on a private jet with a billionaire when you're a Supreme Court justice. It doesn't say that anywhere. Alito said the fishing lodge in Alaska was comfortable but rustic, serving home-style fare. ProPublica said chefs served multi-course meals of Alaskan king crab legs or Kobe filet steak. On the last evening, a member of Altio's group bragged that the wine they were drinking cost $1,000 a bottle, according to a fishing guide. $1,000 a bottle for wine? That's rustic? That's rustic? I go spend $20 on a bottle of wine and it feels like I'm being financially irresponsible. ProPublica detailed how Singer took Altio to Alaska in the summer of 2008 while engaged in a high-stakes case between his hedge fund and the government of Argentina. The case eventually reached the Supreme Court, Altillo joining a 7-1 decision against Argentina. Singer denied wrongdoing or discussing business with Altillo. Altillo said he had never been aware of connections between Singer's businesses and cases before him. No one believes that. Abe Smith, a Georgetown law professor, told ProPublica Altillo should have recused himself because of the gift from Singer. If she were representing a client in such a case and found out about the gift after the fact, Smith said, I'd be outraged on behalf of my client. And frankly, I'd be outraged on behalf of the legal system. The right-wing activist Leonard Leo, who has done much to shape the conservative dominance of federal courts, including the Supreme Court, and who recently received $1.6 billion to further his work, accompanied Altillo and Singer to Alaska. Leo told ProPublica, no objective and well-informed observer of the judiciary honestly could believe that they decide cases in order to call favor with friends or in return for a free plane seat or fishing trip. Kyle Herring, president of the watchdog Accountable US, said, as the Supreme Court corruption crisis grows with yet another apparent violation of the court's bare minimum ethics codes, it's no surprise that Leonard Leo is right in the middle. He's corrupt. He's the corrupting influence responsible for the rot. As long as Chief Justice Roberts continues to dodge responsibility, public trust in our court will continue to plummet. We need reform now. White House, who has sought to highlight donors' influence on the court, responded to Altillo's Wall Street Journal column with incredulity and questions. First, the senator wrote, who orchestrated this weird rebuttal? And did Altillo get help from a PR firm? If so, who paid? Second, why dwell on the term facility, as Altillo called Singer's plane, but not mention that the personal hospitality reporting exemption is specifically limited to food, lodging, and entertainment? Failing to mention that the other part of the rule wouldn't fly in most courts. Third, why not ask the Financial Disclosure Committee of the Judicial Conference, the body set up exactly for that purpose, for its advice on what should be disclosed? That's why it's there. And what? He just happened to be flying to Alaska, and there just happened to be a private jet going to Alaska with an empty seat, and he just happened to find out, like, on some weird billionaire shared ride Uber? Oh, and would that empty seat trick fly with legislative or executive ethics disclosures? Hint, no. And how about the Financial Disclosure Committee? Right, you didn't ask. This just keeps getting worse. ProPublica also reported an earlier Alaskan trip had been taken by another right-wing justice, Antonin Scalia, with Robin Arkley II, the businessman who then owned the fishing lodge and who ProPublica said does not appear to have been involved in any cases before the court. On a visit to the Hubbard Glacier on a boat called the Happy Hooker 4, Scalia, who died in 2016, reportedly mixed martinis from Grey Goose vodka and glacier ice. You cannot make this stuff up. These people are corrupt. Okay, these conservatives in the Supreme Court, they are not impartial. They are not looking out for the American people. They are not just interpreting the law as it was taught to them, and we're just looking at the law that's in front of us, and we're not loaded towards the conservative side at all. We're not gonna try to help them out at all. Nobody believes it. This is why the Supreme Court trust in the Supreme Court is so low. And then these guys have the audacity to go out and complain about, oh, we're being attacked. We can't believe that people see us as impartial, and we're just doing our job as lawyers, and we're as judges, I mean. And we're just completely ineffable and completely above all of this political mudslinging that exists today. They are obviously not above it. we keep seeing instance, an example come out repeatedly that repeatedly shows they are not impartial. And here's another example of it. I'm certain this will not be the last example of it. I am certain we will have more evidence come out about just how corrupt and not impartial our modern day conservative majority Supreme Court in the United States of America is. And ProPublica, good on them. They should continue to keep releasing these articles, because the American people deserve to know what the highest court of our land, supposedly the most sacred court of our land, the American people deserve to know what these people are up to behind closed doors. All right, so we got another piece here about DeSantis and his new immigration law that is coming out. And boy, oh boy, is it really, really harsh stuff here, okay? So let's go ahead and jump into the article here. We got DeSantis proposes deadly force to combat drug smugglers breaching border. This awful, nasty, disgusting, deplorable human that happens to be the governor of Florida, just every time I think he's hit the lowest of the low, a new, disgusting, draconian law suggestion is made. And DeSantis seems to always be able to one-up himself in terms of how much of a despicable, terrible person he is. There's just no limit to it, apparently. No limit to how much this guy will go out of his way to be cruel and hurtful and to cause pain and suffering to groups of people that he does not like and he does not think should be here. What a great American, huh? Eagle Pass, Texas. Seek to end the birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants. Keep asylum seekers in Mexico with their American court cases penned. Finish the border wall and use deadly force against some people trying to break through it and bring drugs into the United States. Ron DeSantis on Monday laid out a sweeping plan to restrict immigration at the southern border that reflects his fundamental pitch for the presidency. The Florida governor says he will deliver the ideology of Donald Trump with better follow-through, including by attempting some measures likely to face stiff legal challenges. Trump's campaign immediately countered with accusations that DeSantis is copying and pasting his agenda. So I got these idiots trying to outdo each other in how awful and harmful they can be to people who are trying to come to America to escape poverty and repression and brutality and have some sort of opportunity in this country where we have plenty of it. We have plenty of land. We have plenty of resources to look after whoever wants to come here. Okay? But no, let's try to come up with laws to hurt people and make their lives as miserable as possible. That's what these two idiots are up to in terms of their policy positions. It's just absolutely despicable that Trump's response to using deadly force against illegal immigrants is that, oh, well, he's copying my idea. I came up with the idea to be a complete asshole to illegal immigrants and to make their lives as hard as possible. I came up with that idea first. Just despicable. DeSantis' proposals include Rules of engagement enabling U.S. personnel to kill certain people breaking through the border wall. He said deadly force would, of course, be justified against people carrying drugs and showing hostile intent, but did not spell out exactly what that meant. I mean, what? What? This is not America. This is some crazy Asian country where you get the death penalty for drugs, like Singapore, for instance. One of the most backwards countries when it comes to drug policy. So backwards and so overly harsh. Yeah, let's copy them. Because that's what we need in the United States of America. He said that deadly force would of course be justified against people carrying drugs and showing hostile intent, but did not spell out exactly what that meant. If you drop a couple of these cartel operatives trying to do that, you're not going to have to worry about that anymore, DeSantis told reporters. Earlier in a speech, he compared the border to a home invasion. If someone was breaking into your house, you would repel them with the use of force, right? DeSantis said. But yet, if they have drugs, these backpacks, and they're going in and they're cutting through an enforced structure, we're just supposed to let them in? You know, I say use force to repel them. If you do that one time, they will never do that again. Under U.S. law, authorities are empowered to arrest and prosecute individuals who have attempted to saw through or damage the border wall. Customs and Border Protection says deadly force is justified when someone poses an imminent threat of death or serious physical injury to another person. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. If a legal immigrant is putting the life in danger of other illegal immigrants or border protections or U.S. citizens, that's totally different than somebody who's just caught with drugs coming into the U.S. You know what I mean? Where are we going to draw the line? What drugs are we gonna be killing people for bringing marijuana over the border? Does that deserve death? A death penalty? I mean, and how is this going to be carried out? Is it we're going to prosecute the illegal immigrants under the death penalty? Because we've shown that if the Florida death penalty is if the Florida laws are what we're going to be following, then look at Nicholas Cruz. He didn't even get the death penalty for shooting up 16 people in Parkland High School in Florida. So what's DeSantis's plan here? Are we going to just shoot him? Just shoot him right there, right at the border? The immigration plan, which DeSantis announced near the southern border, marked a shift for the candidate who for months has focused heavily on promoting his record in Florida and using it as a blueprint for governing on a larger scale. A month into an official campaign launch that has yet to dent Trump's dominance in the polls and amid some criticism of his campaign stagnation, DeSantis is starting to roll out national policy proposals, beginning this week with an issue core to Trump's political identity. His pivot will include proposals on the economy, crime, and combating what Trump first derided as a deep state in the federal bureaucracy opposed to his agenda. DeSantis has started to highlight some policy differences with Trump, criticizing the former president from the right on crime, abortion, and the federal government's response to the coronavirus pandemic. Yeah, because Trump's too far to the left. Right. That's the issues that's facing the modern day GOP. Trump's too far to the left. Right. Got it, DeSantis. But on other issues such as immigration, he's trying to draw a different contrast, saying he will follow through on promises that Trump never carried out. I have listened to people in D.C. for years and years and years, Republicans and Democrats, always chirping about this and yet never actually bringing the issue to a conclusion, DeSantis said Monday morning, speaking between large banners reading, "No excuses." He added, "We don't want hollow rhetoric." Trump has previously floated the idea of using force against migrants, telling aides that the U.S. that he wanted U.S. forces to block people from crossing the border with bayonets and suggesting a moat filled with dangerous reptiles. Officials familiar with his comments told the Post in 2019. I wasn't familiar with this until right now. Trump's immigration strategy is to build a moat with dangerous reptiles. Oh my God. That's silly. If the cartels are cutting through the border wall trying to run product into this country, they're going to end up stone cold dead as a result of that bad decision, DeSantis told reporters. Okay, but prosecuting cartel drug leaders, okay, and people who are directly linked to the cartel, okay, and prosecuting them in a harsh way. I agree. People that illegally smuggle drugs into the United States at the behest of a drug cartel, okay, to do business in the U.S., those people should be prosecuted by the law, okay, to the fullest extent. I agree with that. But what I don't agree with is, anybody that has, we can use deadly force against anybody that has any drug entering the U.S. illegally or what have you. I mean, that is not a viable position. That is not a viable position on immigration. That is going backwards. That is sending the United States backwards, is what it is. Immigration and border security continue to be important issues for Republican primary voters who Trump energized with his hardline proposals when he first ran for president. It remains to be seen whether DeSantis can peel away GOP voters still largely loyal to the former president and often inclined to blame Trump's enemies for gaps between his campaign promises and his accomplishments in office. One time you can really move the needle is when you launch your campaign. And DeSantis' kickoff failed to spark momentum, said Alex Conant, the former communications director of Republican Senator Marco Rubio's 2016 presidential campaign. It's unclear whether some of what DeSantis is proposing is possible because it would mean challenging rights explicitly granted in the U.S. Constitution. Birthright citizenship is enshrined in the 14th Amendment. Some Republican rivals have criticized DeSantis as a Trump copycat. America deserves a choice, not an echo, said Nikki Haley. Speaking in front of a barbed wire fence along the Rio Grande, DeSantis said of Trump, "I think there's a lot of things he's saying, I agree with, but I think those are the same things that we said back in 2016. Where we differ on is, we're more aggressive in terms of our plan than anything he did in empowering local officials to enforce immigration law." DeSantis said, also listing his plan to lean in against the drug cartels as a way he differs from the former president. Let's see here. Stuff about Trump's immigration policies. They're criticizing the Biden immigration policy. All right, guys. So I'm going to stop reading the article there. This is just not okay. All right. This is not okay. Anybody that supporting Ron DeSantis' immigration policy, anybody that supports Donald Trump's immigration policy for that matter, okay, is an anti-American who wants to send America back to, well, not even send America back, but they want us to look like Singapore, okay? And this is about as anti-American as it gets when it can come to immigration policy. And shame on Ron DeSantis for even hoisting that such a reality should or could exist in the United States of America. Shame on you, Ron DeSantis. Shame on you. So lastly here, we got explosive claims by Marco Rubio in relation to David Grush's whistleblowing on the UAP UFO phenomenon that has been reported by lots of different people for many, many years now in this country. And it's really going to shed light on just how crazy it is that we have people so high up in the government that are coming forward and saying, no, this isn't a bunch of crazy sci-fi stuff. This is in fact a real thing that real people are coming forward and testifying about. So let's get into the article here. Congress doubles down on explosive claims of illegal UFO retrieval programs. Asked June 26th about allegations of secret UFO retrieval and reverse engineering programs, Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chairman Marco Rubio made several stunning statements. In an exclusive interview, Rubio told News Nation Washington correspondent Joe Cahill that multiple individuals with very high clearances and high positions within our government have come forward to share firsthand UFO-related claims beyond the realm of what the Senate Intelligence Committee has ever dealt with. I'm just gonna read this one more time, just to drive the point home. Marco Rubio is saying that multiple individuals with very high clearances and high positions within our government have come forward to share firsthand UFO-related claims beyond the realm of what the Senate Intelligence Committee has ever dealt with? Rubio's comments provide context for a bipartisanship provision adopted unanimously by the Senate Intelligence Committee, which would immediately halt funding for any secret government or contractor efforts to retrieve and reverse engineer craft of non-Earth or exotic origin. The extraordinary language added to the Senate version of the Intelligence Authorization Bill mirrors and adds significant credibility to a whistleblower's recent stunning allegations that a clandestine, decades-long effort to recover, analyze, and exploit objects of non-human origin has been operating illegally without congressional oversight. Additionally, the bill instructs individuals with knowledge of such activities to disclose all relevant information and grants legal immunity if the information is reported appropriately, within a defined time frame. Moreover, nearly 20 pages of the legislation appear to directly address recent events by enhancing a raft of legal protections for whistleblowers, while also permitting such individuals to contact Congress directly. What's going on here? Why are all these high-level officials coming out of the woodwork and saying that this is all not craziness? That this is somewhat... that they're introducing legislation to allow other whistleblowers to come forward and say what they know. If Grush was just lying about what he was saying about how the U.S. has a secret crash retrieval program, why would all these lawmakers, and specifically Marco Rubio, need to be coming out of the woodwork to voice that we should have more lenient laws in terms of people whistleblowing on the UAP phenomenon? Something weird is going on here, guys. Something really weird. Researcher and congressional expert Douglas Johnson first reported on and analyzed the remarkable bill language, which, if it passes the House, could become law this calendar year. Beyond the Senate Intelligence Committee, the powerful investigative body that oversees the nation's intelligence agencies found the aforementioned whistleblower allegations that secret UFO-related programs are illegally withheld from Congress to be credible and urgent. Moreover, according to two reports, multiple military intelligence and contractor officials corroborated claims that the U.S. government or private companies possess multiple craft of possible non-human origin. Importantly, this intelligence bill is not the first instance of Congress addressing the possible existence of surreptitious, I'm not sure what that word is, UFO retrieval and reverse engineering programs. The 2023 National Defense Authorization Act, signed into law by President Joe Biden last December, established robust whistleblower protections for individuals with knowledge of secret UFO programs engage in material retrieval, material analysis, reverse engineering, research, and development. But the Senate Intelligence Committee's legislation goes significantly further than previous laws. If enacted as drafted, the legislation would immediately halt funding for any secret, unreported programs that engage in analyzing retrieved UFOs for the purpose of determining properties, material consumption, method of manufacture, origin, characteristics, usage and application, performance, operational modalities, or reverse engineering of such craft or component technology. At the same time, the legislation would cease funding for any personnel engaged in capturing, recovering, and securing UFOs or pieces and components of such craft. Funding would also be cut for the development of propulsion technology or aerospace craft that uses propulsion technology systems or subsystems that is based on or derived from or inspired by inception, analysis, or reverse engineering of recorded UFOs or materials. Oh my God. So basically what my takeaway from this is if Grush is just lying, if Grush is just misled, if this UAP crash retrieval program is just a bunch of nonsense and it's a bunch of people going crazy with their imagination, or it's just a bunch of, or it's some kind of psyops campaign to cover up some other government program or to distract from some other military secret or a program being ran by one of our foreign adversaries, why is there a need for why is the language so specific in this potential law? Why is it so specifically allowing more and more whistleblowers to come forward and including protections that allow for people to come forward and whistleblow about what they know about crash retrieval programs or reverse engineering of non-human origin craft? You know what I mean? They would be coming out and saying, this is all just a bunch of nonsense and we don't know anything about any of this and this is crazy. But just the fact that that's not what they're saying adds credence to Grush's claims of a secret U.S. crash retrieval program existing. Perhaps more importantly, the bill language prohibits legal prosecution of individuals with knowledge of surreptitious retrieval and reverse engineering of non-human craft. To avoid legal jeopardy, such individuals would have 2 months after passage of the legislation to inform the director of the Pentagon's new UFO Analysis Office of the existence of relevant UFO-related information. It's like, it's almost as if the lawmakers haven't been let in on the secret themselves, and they're confused and wondering what the heck's going on, just like everybody else is. And the reason that would be the reason that they are making these laws to be as specifically worded as they are is to extract as much unknown information and to embolden people who may not be wanting to come forward for one reason or another. It's giving them the green light and a legal mechanism to extract as much information as we can out of these specific individuals that hold such knowledge. So the fact that these bills are being introduced, this is some weird shit, guys. Importantly, the Senate Intelligence Committee's legislation contains a sense of Congress provision. Such resolutions typically convey a particular message from either the White House or the Senate, as in this case, from Congress as a whole. The sense of Congress is that any illegally held... the sense of Congress is that any illegally hidden craft of non-Earth or exotic origin must be brought out of the shadows for broader scientific and industrial analysis. In particular, the goal of the legislation is to avoid technology stovepipes, a reference to the non-sharing of information due to excessive secrecy and compartmentalization, and to integrate any recovered exotic technology into the nation's broader industrial base. The sense of Congress provision aligns closely with concerns expressed by multiple officials that extraordinary secrecy prevents the robust scientific analysis required to make sense of the advanced non-human craft allegedly retrieved in the recent decades. What they're saying is, why not unleash the full brain power of America and the world's best scientists to all study and figure out what the heck is going on here? And that if we keep it secret to just a few people, we're not going to be figuring out the truth and how to maybe reverse engineer this technology as quickly as we would if the knowledge was made public. Think of the 2020 pandemic, okay, and how quickly the world developed vaccines. Is a miracle how quickly vaccines were developed. And it's because every top scientist in the world, all of their brain power was all being contributed to one vaccine. And that's how it got done. It was collaboration of the top scientists in the world, and there wasn't any secrets or information being withheld from one another. So leading to this argument of, the sense of Congress anyways, why they would be wanting for whistleblowers to come forward with information that they have, whatever it is that they know. Of note, there are indications that at least one law enforcement entity is engaged in a sweeping investigation of the U.S. government's handling of UFOs. Freedom of Information Act requests are one of the few pathways through which private citizens can obtain government information on UFOs. Official documents and other data released by FOIA are frequently redacted to prevent the release of classified information. Importantly, each redaction must be grounded in a legal justification for why the relevant information is withheld. Recently, the U.S. government denied in full 5 FOIA requests encompassing a broad range of UFO-related topics. In a striking departure from previous practice, the government denied the requests on the grounds that the release of the information may interfere with enforcement proceedings and law enforcement investigations or prosecutions. The application of such novel justifications for withholding government UFO information is circumstantial evidence that a law enforcement entity, such as the Department of Defense Office of Inspector General, is engaged in a broad and possibly criminal investigation of the U.S.'s government's involvement with UFOs. After all, what government oversight body explicitly charged with preventing unlawful activities would fail to initiate a sweeping investigation of extraordinary and seemingly credible investigations of illegality? Yeah, so, wow. Some really, really crazy stuff here. I'm going to venture out on a limb and say that this issue of UFOs and UAPs, there's been more progress on this in the last 30 days than the last 80 years combined. And the fact that we keep having more revelations coming out and the story is not just going away, and we have more and more revelations coming out and lawmakers popping up out of the woodwork to say, yeah, this is credible. Yeah, we're going to look into this. Yeah, we're going to implement laws that are going to allow whistleblowers to have more legal protections and not be fearful of being prosecuted or, ostracized by coming forward with this information. This tells me that there is going to be more stuff coming out about this. And where is this all leading? Is this all leading to the greatest revelation in the history of our species, that humanity is in fact not alone in the universe in terms of being intelligent, conscious life? Wow, this could be a story for the ages. And the fact that we keep having more and more information coming out is really, really intriguing. I'm a follow the information guy. I've been skeptical of that an alien species or what have you could travel the vast distances of space to come here? And why would they come here if they could get the resources on Earth much easier on a planet that was closer to them? Okay, I've always been very skeptical and a follow the evidence guy when it comes to this stuff. And the evidence, if you follow the evidence, what the evidence is showing is that there is something going on here that is really weird. And why would all these people lie is another thing that I'm thinking about. Why would Rubio lie about people coming forward to him that have whistleblown about the same things that David Grush has whistleblown about? What would he gain from that politically? This isn't an issue that is scoring you a bunch of political points with one side or the other. And in fact, you could argue that you have nothing to gain by talking about this. That could be why so many politicians are simply mum about the issue. But yeah, if we're taking this article and at face value, these are some just crazy stuff in here, guys. And I can't wait to see what follows in the coming weeks and months. And are we going to wake up one day to a different world than we were living in previously? Remains to be seen, but I'm following along right with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and end the podcast here. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and listening. It's really great to always have you guys join in. We'll catch you in the next one. Got another great show coming up for you on Wednesday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day and peace.